Hello.
As you
Feel
guys
free.
as you guys are entering, please answer the icebreaker in the chat. The question is, if you had to describe your leadership style as a hero, what hero would you choose and why? So make sure you're answering that icebreaker as you guys are coming in. Just leave your answers in the chat.
Thank you so much. And feel free to have your cameras on. If you can, please have your microphones off for now. But if you feel like having your cameras on, we would love to see you.
As I am letting people into the chat, I will repost the prompt for the icebreaker.
What the fuck?
Thank you, guys. Welcome in. I see there's some responses already on the chat. Elastic Grow, because I feel like my leadership style is very flexible to the group I am with. Oh, wow. That's actually really good. That's really cool. As you're coming in, go ahead and answer the icebreaker question. It's on the chat. Feel free to have your cameras on. We do ask to have your microphones off just for now so that there are no other distractions. Thank you for joining.
I didn't do that. Yeah.
Like we got another one in the chat. If I had to describe my leadership style, I'd say I'm like Captain America. He leads by setting a good example, staying calm under pressure, and always doing what's right, even when it's hard. He listens to his team and works with them, making sure everyone's voice is heard. I try to do the same, helping others, staying true to my values, and staying focused when things get tough. That's a really good one. I like that. That's from Rashid. And then we have Mika said Iron Man because he's confident. Oh, good responses, guys.
What about you guys?
I would say Iron Man because I try to look for like new and innovative ways to lead.
Yeah, I always feel like I'm between Iron Man and Captain America. It's just like I feel like Tony has done mistakes in his past that he learned from, and he just grew as a person. Um, and when not always, but when it came to being held accountable, I think there were times where he, put his foot down and was like, "Okay, guys, we have to take accountability for this." Like, we can't hear you, Austin. I think you're speaking, but you're muted.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? Hey everybody, how y'all doing? I would have to say Spider-Man because n no matter what comes his way, he always has a solution. He always has a problem. He always has a solution to fix the problem. And I would say also Spider-Man because he's a people's person. He loves people and he does anything that he can for his community and where he's from. And I really love that about him. So I would say that's something that really resonates with me when it comes to Spider-Man and my leadership style.
Go ahead, Alante. Come on and tell us. What about you? Is Deadpool appropriate?
For me, I would say Deadpool. I know he's kind of a goofy, crazy character, but I only say that because he doesn't back down the challenge. Like literally, he never backs down the challenge. And he does face a lot of barriers and roadblocks throughout his, journey, but he doesn't let those stop him. He just keeps going. And he always tries to make the best out of every situation, which is something I do quite often. So, yeah.
I see we're getting some more responses. Allison said, if I had to describe my leadership style, I would say I am like Mr. Fantastic because he's such a quick problem solver.
Yes, and then let's just read the last one. Gunnar said, "What an interesting question. I've got to say Iron Man 2. Oops. Oh my god, where is it? Iron Man 2 because I'm always looking for new ways to lead, to elevate and innovate." Oh wow, okay. Nice way to incorporate the theme. And then Ashley says, also Black Widow is a great problem solver. She always takes the initiative to solve problems within her group just like me. Period. Thank you everyone for participating. I hope that was a fun little question, and it makes you think about your leadership style and how you really are, and it just kind of makes you reflect, but also keeps it fun. So shout out to our parliamentarian for coming up with that. We are going to go ahead and get started. So as we get started, I'm going to ask that you please make sure that your microphone is muted. I can hear a couple microphones. Thank you so much. And so we're just going to go ahead and get started with today's live event. So my name is Frida Medrano. I am the JAGCA president.
Hey everybody, it is your JAGCA President-elect, Austin Small.
Hi guys, it's Alondra Aguilera, your National Secretary.
Hey guys, it's Alante Gross, your national parliamentarian.
And once again, we are so excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining. The last time we saw you, we saw some of you either in December or during our last live events, which has been a while now. So we're really excited for today. Today we have a very special guest with us, our advisor, Carrie Webb, and she will be sharing a few things with us. We thought it would be a good idea to talk a little bit about what JAGCA Week is, how it started, why we have it, why is it important. And so for that, we have the perfect person to do that, and that is Carrie Webb, our advisor. So now I'm going to let her, and she is going to share to us what JAGCA is all about.
Thank you, Frida, and good evening, everyone. I am so excited to have you all with us. They really just picked me because I'm old and I've been around for a while, so I know all the history of JAG. But honestly, the Career Association has always been a fundamental and foundational aspect of the JAG model. The Career Association was founded in its inception in 1979 and 80 when Delaware had its first program. And so fast forward 40 years, we wanted to commemorate the Career Association. We knew that the Career Association is the magic of what makes JAG JAG and brings JAG to life because it allows you to make the decisions of what happens in the classroom. We know that the competencies are important, but really it's what you do and how you bring them to life in your own communities that really where learning takes place. And so we wanted to capitalize that and really provide a platform for voice, student voice, across the JAG National Network. And so when we first founded the JAGCA, or it started as the National Career Association, but as we started to think about branding and the power of JAG, we wanted to make sure that that was a part of it as well. So we started NCA Week, now known as JAGCA Week, in 2023. And this is what was an opportunity for the career associations at the local level to promote JAG within your school and your community. And so the officers at the time decided to host this week every year over the founding governor's birthday. Pete DuPont was a governor in Delaware, and Ken Smith and Governor DuPont founded JAG. And so to commemorate his birthday, which is January 22nd, we thought we would host it over his birthday week every year. Unfortunately, this year, his birthday week fell over the Monday that we would have this live session was on Martin Luther King Day, and most people across the country have it's a nationally recognized holiday, so we postponed another week. So here we are. But the goal of the Career Association Week is to raise awareness of JAG in your schools and to promote the Career Association. Every week, every day is associated with a theme, which allows you to plan activities at your local chapter around our goals. And so this year we'll have Leadership Day today. So our wonderful national officers will kick us off with some leadership lessons. On Tuesday, there's Mindfulness Day. Wednesday's Career Day. Thursday, Team Building Day, and then we wrap it up with our Service Day. And so there's a head rush module that highlights how to walk through with sample activities and ways you can promote the Career Association on social media. So we want you, and we're challenging you to capture this in video and take photos and then amplify those videos and photos on our social media channels. They're listed in that head rush module. So we look forward to watching what you're doing in your chapters and at your state levels. And we look forward to learning from you as well. So thanks for having me. Thanks for being here. And I'm excited for what the rest of the week has to offer. All right, Frida, back to you.
Thank you so much, Carrie. And here are just a few more. Thank you. Thank you so much, Carrie, for that. You can go back a little on the other one. Yeah, thank you. And so we thought today would be fun to talk about one of the characteristics that a good leader has. Um, we have talked about this before, but we thought that maybe today would be even better to share a little bit more about our experiences regarding this specific characteristic. And so today, since it is Leadership Day, we decided to talk about the characteristic of empathy, and specifically empathy within a leader. Thank you. So sometimes we ask ourselves, um, do we have empathy? Do we know what empathy is? And so today we want to ask you this question. You don't have to think about it so much, or share scenarios with us just yet. But we do want to ask you: have you practiced empathy? And just out of your top of your head, it's either a yes or no question. We don't want you to think about it too much. And so Alondra, I see Alondra, she says yes. I think I also have practiced empathy. I see everyone saying yes. Thank you for answering. And so this is something that we believe as leaders is an important characteristic to have, especially when it comes to working with many, many students, not just with a partner or in a group of three. We are students that work with many students at the same time in groups, in collaborations of up to 10 people at the same time. And it's important to have this characteristic with us. And today we're kind of going to dive into why it is important. So we go on to the next slide. Thank you. If we go on to the next slide, we can see here the definition of empathy, and it's sort of embedded already within our JAG goals and within our JAG mission. So, an empathetic servants leader has awareness and understanding of the feelings of another person and helps the person heal by being willing to help solve their problems. And today, we also want to talk a little bit about what empathy means to us individually. For me, empathy is not just about being aware and understanding, it's also about putting yourself in others' position and really their situation, um, and kind of just going through what they're going through makes you really understand the perspective and their perspective and where they are coming from. And that is what empathy for me um means. And now we're going to also hear about what empathy means for the rest of our officers.
Yes, thank you so very much, Frida. I believe empathy to me is, I would say, the ability to genuinely understand the feelings of others and really, really listening and really learning, and also just being there to support one another.
Those are very good definitions. Thank you, Austin and Frida. To me, empathy means not only being able to understand others' perspectives, but also being able to incorporate that into your leading and being just keeping those points of view in your mind and making decisions based on how it will affect the rest of your team.
I second everything that's been said. Amazing responses, officers. For me, empathy is about really putting yourself in someone else's shoes and just being able not to only understand them emotionally, but also their perspective and their outlook on life. So, really just having that open mindset and perspective.
Thank you for sharing. And now we will have our own our very own Alondra Aguilera, secretary. She will talk a little bit more about empathy.
Okay. So one key aspect of empathizing with your peers is perspective. So we kind of touched on this when we talked about our own definitions for empathy, but perspective is huge when it comes to empathizing with others because it means putting aside your own views, no matter how strong they are, putting aside your own views and being able to look at someone else's perspective and put yourself in their shoes, put yourself in their mindset, why they're thinking that way, why they're doing the things that they are doing, and how your decisions are affecting them and why they're affecting them in such great ways. And a big way to incorporate perspective into leadership is by validating your peers' perspective. And you can do this by acknowledging what they say, but only when you truly understand what they're talking about. So don't just say, oh, yeah, I understand. I completely understand what you're saying, even when you really don't. It might be really easy to say that, but I think it's important when you're talking to someone to take a step back and kind of process what they told you, think about it, and come up with a very well thought out response. And that just shows that you really do empathize with them, that you really do understand them. And I think another important thing to keep in mind is that acknowledgement isn't always agreement. So, no matter how much you don't agree with their point of view, it doesn't mean you can't acknowledge them. Just because you acknowledge their point of view does not mean that you completely agree with them or that your own perspective has been changed, but that you understand them and that you are respectful of their point of view. And last but not least, being able to understand other points of view is an important quality every leader should have. Thank you.
Thank you, Alondra. And so now we want to talk a little bit more about the importance. So, an important part of empathy are the lessons that come with practicing empathy and the lessons that we teach. When we're having maybe an argument with other people or some discussion, it's easy to get carried away and be stuck on the idea of proving that you're right. And sometimes when you are right, we may see that as a win, like, oh, I won, like that. I'm right, you're wrong. And I'll even admit it, like it feels right to be right. I mean, it feels good to be right. And it does feel like a win, especially when you're in an argument and you're speaking to a person that is being stubborn about this idea or about a certain situation, and that they're not moving forward. But sometimes it's really important to take a step back and ask yourself, is it really that important for me to win? Is it really that important for me to be right in this situation? What do I really gain from this? Why is this person so stuck about not being wrong? Maybe it's an insecurity that of that person that they haven't overcome yet. Maybe it goes deeper than that. Maybe it goes beyond what we are seeing at the surface level. And so it is important to just take a step back, ask yourself, is it really that important for me to be right in this moment? Because what can happen as well is that when you accept to let go of the right and wrong sides and just focus on helping this person through the situation, you are teaching them a lesson. In that moment, you learn that it is not a big deal, this right or wrong mindset. And you're also teaching the other person a lesson. You can teach them to build a relationship with acceptance. And that can really take people a long way. I know for me, being wrong was kind of like an insecurity, right? Because I just couldn't be wrong. Like, whether that came from my family or at school, like, I just did not want to be wrong. Then I just felt dumb. But it took time to learn that I needed to accept sometimes that I was wrong. And that really does build a relationship with myself, and it makes me feel more confident. But I wouldn't have gotten to this place if it weren't for people who allowed themselves to not make me feel dumb about being wrong, but more so helping me accept that I'm wrong. And really, that was done by empathizing with me. And so when we empathize, we realize that, we're not just putting ourselves in other people's situations, we're also helping them learn, and we're teaching them lessons as we empathize with them.
Thank you, Alondra and Frida, for your amazing presentations. I really, really enjoyed that. And so now it is my turn to present, and really is really based off everything that Alondra and Frida had already stated before.
Oh,
You need to
congratulations.
have, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Who presented you with the award?
Oh, I think someone was talking. Okay. Um, like I was stating before, a lot of the things that was said already, with Frida and Alondra, I'm gonna just be, hitting back on that. But my main topic is being an empathetic listener. And I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but in the slide, and Frida, in your slide before, it was pictures of our national officer retreat that we took last summer after we got elected. And that is actually some of the different points that we talked about when it comes to empathy. So on that post-it note that was on the wall, it talks about communicating needs. So that is a huge, huge, huge part in empathy. Another thing that one of our national officer trainers told us, Amy G, everybody knows Amy G. Amy talked about in that back, you see every idea 5 seconds. So listening while somebody is communicating needs. And that is really, really important when it comes to anybody that is coming up with an idea, when it's anybody that's coming up to you, as a leader. You want to make sure that you hold on to that idea for 5 seconds. You think about it, you ponder on it before you automatically make a decision on whether you're going to be against this or you're going to be with this. And another thing back there that really resonates with me on that slide is step up and step back. So sometimes it takes you to, put that step up, in life in order to step back. So sometimes we have to initiate the empathy, and to empathize with others. So we have to step up first. We have to take that initiative. And I just wanted to just point out those different things that were on our post-it notes during our training, in that photo. So thank you so very much. But going on to what I was talking about when it comes to listening, which is a instrumental part in being an empathetic listener. We all want to be heard, right? We all want to, feel as though that we are the people that, just have it all together, and we want everybody to listen to us. We want to feel heard. We want to feel valued. We want to feel understood. We want to feel appreciated. And so that's something that you have to always make sure that you are doing when it comes to others. So you can't be just the person who wants to just talk, talk, talk and never listen. And so that's something that I'm learning as a national officer, something that Frida has taught me, is patience and listening. And I'm using that skill, that learning skill each and every day. I promise you, guys, don't listen to just have a response, but really listen to understand. And that is really, really important when it comes to being an empathetic leader. Another thing listening can also do is building trust and connection. When you're going out to talk to these different people, when you're going out to network, you want to make sure that you're listening to these government agencies, these stakeholders, these, political figures. You want to make sure that you're listening to them, because this is going to build a bridge of trust and as well as connection, so people can feel as though that they're in a safe space. I would also say that listening also fosters understanding. You don't, like Alondra was saying, you don't just want to be listening, or like she said before, listening to acknowledge or to agree. So you want to make sure that you're fostering understanding while you're listening. So this not only helps the person, but it also helps you. And reduce judgment. I know a lot of us are really, really quick to judge. It's just our human nature, I would say. And we all have a little bias, right? And so that's why it is very, very important for you to listen, because despite your assumptions or despite your judgment, this can actually be something that could be beneficial to you, or this can be actually something that helps you. And last but not least, I would say strengthens relationships. Strengthen relationships through empathy. It deepens the bonds. And I can truly, truly say that each and every national officer that is on this call, this Zoom call tonight, literally shows empathy to me and others as we, have our reign here as a national officer. And so it is crucial that we strengthen our bonds, because JAG is not just a program, but it's a family that fosters those relationships, that grows those bonds, that strengthens those bonds. And so I am forever going to be, I would say, lifelong friends with my fellow national officer team, just because I am a empathetic listener. And I encourage each and every one of you guys to be an empathetic listener in your leadership journey. Thank you.
Oh, it's just something about Austin's words that always gets me all shooken up. But thank you for the amazing lesson on empathy, guys. We're gonna start an empathy activity, but before we start, I want you guys to take a moment and think about what empathy means to you. Has your perspective on empathy changed after going through a lesson? Is it the same? Just take a second to think about what empathy means to you, and then we'll move on to our activity. So I'll give you guys about 30 seconds, and then we're gonna move on, okay?
Did you want him to drop it in the chat or just think about it?
Oh yeah, if you want, feel free to drop it in the chat as well. Thank you, Carrie. Okay, well, we're gonna get started. So for our empathy activity, I am going to be your host. Think of this as a game show, except there's no prizes and no money. So we're gonna try our best to we are gonna have fun. I can promise you that. So in this activity, we're really gonna put your empathetic skills to the test. I also want you guys to know that there is no right or wrong answer. And along with you putting your empathetic skills to the test, we also want you to think about what would a non-empathetic response be, okay? So in this activity, we're gonna have 3 different scenarios. And I want you guys to think about what would an empathetic response be and what would a non-empathetic response be? And then we'll do some discussion, okay? So let's move on to our first scenario. Okay, so our first scenario is your JAG class is preparing for mock interviews with real employers. And you notice that your peer Alondra is panicking about her upcoming interview. She feels unprepared and keeps asking for extra help, but everyone is busy. Next slide. So, what would you do? I want you guys to take a couple seconds to think about what you would do in this in this situation. What would your empathetic response be, and what would your non-empathetic response be? And then after a minute, we'll take some time to discuss.
I put the scenario back for a prompt to refresh everybody's mind. How are you going to take care of Alondra?
Okay, are you guys ready? If so, can I get a couple thumbs up in the chat so we can do discussion? We got thumbs up. And for discussion, you guys can also share out loud. Just go ahead and take yourself off mute and share. Okay, well, we do have one response. Okay. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So, my name is Gunnar. I am the JAG Indiana parliamentarian. As we're talking about being an empathetic listener and really kind of gauging people, so I think the situation, like when everybody's busy and somebody needs help, that's really really difficult. And I feel like it could be almost overstimulating. So I think it really kind of boils down to finding additional time and investing those additional resources just into your students or your constituents or your peers or anything like that. So it's all just about investing more time and energy and even creating that time if you have to as well, even because if it's not present right there. One thing that I always say is you can't really do something that you care about in your free time, but you free time to do something that you care about. So that's kind of what I think this goes back to as well.
Very good response, Gunnar. Thank you for sharing. We have one in the chat from Rashid. Sorry if I pronounce your name incorrectly. Please correct me. He said, my empathetic response would be, I would do everything I can to help her and understand what she's going through. I listen to her and see if there's anything we can do together to help her feel less stressed. Okay. And then for their non-empathetic, they said, I tell her it's her problem and move on without really trying to help. Yeah. All right, we have another one in chat from Ashley, Louisiana State President. My empathetic response will be, I will try my best to help you get through what she's going through. I will help you prepare and give her extra help if needed. That's so sweet. Okay, Rashid, my apologies. And the national officers, if you guys want to help read off some to you, can as well.
I did see one from Shelby that was at the top. She said that her empathetic response would be, I would do everything in my power to help her and understand what she's going through and see if there's anything we could do to help her stress or help her relieve her stress, is what I'm assuming. And then non empathetic, I would tell her it's her problem and move on.
Okay, we got one more, and then we'll move on to the next one. From Savannah Edgar, she said, I would ask her what question she is most nervous about answering and help her through what she could say. Okay, good responses. All right, let's move on to our next scenario. Do one of you national officers want to read off this next scenario?
I got it. Scenario 2, you and your JAG team are preparing for the Love Project at your state CDC. One team member, Frida, keeps messing up her part during practice. She looks nervous but doesn't say anything.
Oh, Austin, we missed it. You were muted. Try again.
Oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. What would you do? And guys, feel free to come off of mute. We want to hear your voices. We want to see your lovely faces tonight. This is an interactive live meeting, so we want you guys to have as much voice and opinion as possible. So come out. We want to hear your ideas. We want to hear your opinions.
If I have a solution, can I go ahead and go? Okay, so in this scenario, if I could visibly see Frida being stressed out, then I would go up to her and ask her probably like, "Hey, are you okay? You're looking a little stressed." And if she is and she's having difficulty remembering her part, try to help her as much as I can with trying to remember that and remind her it's okay to get stressed out and sometimes it just happens and that we're all human and at the end of the day we're all going to do just fine.
I love it, Shelby. I mean, it's amazing at reassuring Frida in this moment. Do we have anyone else who wants to go for scenario 2?
Hi, I'm Savannah Edgar from Jag, Alabama. I think if I saw her stressed out about forgetting her part, I would probably walk up to her and just ask her what about it is difficult to remember, and if there's anything that we as a team can do to help her remember, maybe changing the wording just a little bit, or changing the visual cue so she can remember it better.
Love your response, Savannah. Any of the national officers want to call on someone?
I can go.
Okay, we have Rashid.
I'm Rashid. I don't know how to say it. I'm the vice president of Jobs for Delaware Grads, and my non-empathetic would be I would probably ignore Frida's nervousness and mistakes, and I would comment on to it and say, Frida, you need to get this right. You're holding us back. And then my empathetic was acknowledging Frida's feelings and offer support. And then I would also comment and say, Frida, I noticed you seem a little nervous. Is there anything that I can help with? And things like that.
Frida, how does that sound?
Honestly, it sounds pretty real to me. And it's funny because, we at some point during our lives we will run into people who are just going to straight up give it to us like that, get it together, you're holding us back. So we do have to be prepared for both scenarios, but of course when we as leaders take it upon ourselves to be more empathetic towards others, then it's easier and more friendly out there. But I do like those responses.
Thank you, Madam President. We have room for one more for this scenario before we go on to the next. Do we have anyone? Any lucky winner? Winner, chicken dinner? Anybody? All right, if not, then we can move on, guys.
Oh, I look so good in that picture. Okay, our last scenario is your JAG class is organizing a community service project for the National Service Project. But one student, Alante, so me, is overwhelmed with schoolwork and personal commitments. He's been absent from meetings and hasn't completed his assigned task. What would you do?
What would you do?
See, he looks just like me.
He looks just like you. So I think an instance of a non-empathetic response here would just be like, "Hey, get it together! Like, you're stalling the team and you're not helping." But an example of an empathetic response would be to check in and see if there's anything that's going on, below the or beneath the surface. Maybe superficially it looks like there's just schoolwork or just whatever, but really seeing if there's actually anything deeper going on and go from there and see if there are any ways you could help.
Good response, Gunner. Very good response. Is there anyone else that would like to share? Come on, come off mute, take those cameras off. Promise we won't bite. This is a safe place. We want to hear all you guys' ideas.
Hello, I'm Mariah Cunningham. I'm a student at McInerney High School. I with Miss Lee Champion for JAG. My non-empathetic would be I would kind of tell him, okay, come on, we need to, pick up the pace. Let's get it together. Let's try to work on being there for the team because the team needs you. But my sympathetic, I would try to, the other person said, be there for them, encourage them to keep trying, to keep going, and to tell them that it's something there. It's the end goal. Try to reach that goal. Try to be there for your team because your team needs you at the end of the day. You can't think about anything else. Think about your team.
I like that. That's really good. Thank you, Mariah, for sharing. Anybody else? I have a question, Alondra. What would you do?
I guess my empathetic response would be, after every meeting, I'd text Alante and just check in with him, see if he's okay. I'd fill him in on the meeting notes. I'd ask him if there's anything I can do to help expedite the completion of the task that he's missing. And my non-empathetic response would probably be to complain about my teammate and be like, hey man, like this guy hasn't been showing up to meetings and he hasn't been completing his tasks. So, yeah.
I have a couple in the chat. Savannah Edgar, she says she's from Alabama, sorry. She said, I would offer to help with one of their other commitments if it's something I could help with to help lighten their load. Sometimes getting one thing done can make them feel motivated enough to do another thing. That's really sweet, Savannah. If I'm being honest, I didn't even think of that option, trying to help them with one of their other commitments. So really good response. All right, we have another one from Rashid. He said, and he's from Delaware. His non-empathetic response, he said, would be dismissive and critical. He would say, Alante, you're always making excuses. If you can't handle it, why are you even part of this project? Okay, it kind of hurts, but thank you. And in his empathetic response, he said, would be more supportive and understanding. It would be like, hey, Alante, I noticed you've been missing meetings. Is everything okay? you're feeling overwhelmed, maybe we can find a way to adjust your task or help out. Thank you, Rashi. That's very sweet. Sorry, you're all good. All right, anyone else? Let's try to get one more.
These are so thoughtful, very thoughtful responses. And I do want to say that, you know, especially when you work as a team, being empathetic is so important. And I feel like I have seen that within our team. There's times where some of us are handling more things than others at times, where one of us may be more overwhelmed than the other. You know, there's times where some of us may not really be having much on our plate, so we take each other's assignments, you know, and help each other out. And you'd be surprised like how much that really does help the whole team dynamic. It helps us move forward. It helps us complete tasks faster, and most importantly, it allows us to keep that quality work that we have as a team. And you know, I feel like that is something that I see every day within our own team here, and I really do believe that is because we are so empathetic with each other.
I agree. And looks like Carrie said, I wonder what else was going on in their lives that was getting in way of engaging in the project. Very good response, Carrie. And I also want you guys, I have a question for you guys. Do you think being non-empathetic or being pragmatic is always a bad thing? Do you think there's certain instances where it's okay to be non-empathetic or pragmatic? So say in this situation that after you guys tried to be empathetic to me over and over again, I just kept doing it. You helped me with my external task and everything, but I just wouldn't get a hang of it and get on top of my task. Is it okay to have a more non-empathetic or pragmatic response? Getting a lot of yeses. I 100% agree.
And think about this too, Alante, like to go based off what you were saying. Sometimes we can be a little too empathetic and then people kind of take advantage of that, I would say. So I would say that you would know when it's time to be like 100% real, like Alondra said, and when it's time to, be more empathetic, I would say. So like you just have to go with your gut and really read the other person's feelings and also their reactions.
Yes, there's nothing wrong with being realistic, or keeping it 100, as you guys may say. Let me stop try to act like I'm old. But it's it's okay. I would say as long as you address it in a nice manner. I wouldn't go up to him and yell like, "You're not doing your stuff, get out." I don't do that. We don't got to be mean and serious about it. Just approach them, talk to them nicely. It's okay to be a little stern about the situation and be like, "Hey, I know you're going through a lot and we tried our best to help you. Is this something you can keep doing or not? Because if not, we can replace you." So there's nothing wrong with being pragmatic, being realistic. And like Austin said, sometimes people will take advantage of you being empathetic. So don't overdo it. But if we have no more responses, I am going to bring our game show to an end. It was an honor being your host. And now we are going to move on to what you guys probably all have been waiting for, which is questions. So if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or take yourself off mute, introduce yourself, and ask a question.
I actually do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Shelby. I am JAG Indiana's secretary. And going off of what we just talked about, where sometimes having non empathy might have to happen, depending upon the situation, could any of the officers tell me about a time where maybe they could not use empathy in a certain situation?
Do you mean does it need to be like JAG related or just
Whichever you prefer.
um we have a family friend. This is gonna turn into like chisme, but I promise it's not. But we have a family friend, and sometimes, we've tried to help her. um we met her because she was one of my close friends' mom, but then my mom and her became friends, so now she's like a family friend, right? But at first, it was kind of like oh my god, we kind of feel bad for her because she would always tell us how she was struggling. Maybe it was her job, or maybe she was not working and she needed to find a job. Sometimes it was like the place where she would live. Or sometimes it was like her kids that were being rude to her or just mistreated her. And for a really long time, we were kind of like, oh my god, like that sucks, and we feel really, really bad. Like, how can we help her? But then, as time passed by, we kind of realized that it almost felt as if she wanted people to feel bad for her, and that it sucks, and it's really like hard to say it because we've known her for years now, but for years now, we've tried to, help her find better job positions. And sometimes we'll refer her and she'll show up. And then after like a week or two, she'll quit or like stop showing up, or something will happen. Or, she doesn't want to like move on from where she's on, from like the point of her life where she's at. Um, and then you get like her story, and then you get her kids or other people's version of their story. And then it's like different. And so we kind of just realized that at some point, like, it almost felt like she wanted to be in the same situation, um and just kind of like want people to feel bad. And like I said, it sucks to say that, but some people are like that. And unfortunately, when you have people like that in your life, you kind of have to keep it real with them. So now it's kind of gone to the point where my mom would just tell her like, well, why don't you do this? Or like, well, that's your fault because you did A, B, and C. And so yeah, she doesn't really talk to us as much anymore. But I have a feeling it's because we my mom has just kind of had enough and just tells her how it is. And so sometimes you just have to be like that. But yeah, when you asked that question, that was like the situation that came to my mind.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Not to throw him under the bus or anything, but I have an older brother that's somewhat in that same boat. So I totally get that 100%.
Frida, if I may, I'm not gonna keep you guys long, but I do want to say something that is Jack related, for your question that you asked Shelby. So it was the time for me to run for national office. Me and my state, we came to St. Louis, Missouri last year in April, right? And me as the state president, I had a lot of roles and responsibilities. Going up for national offices was a huge, huge deal. And when we first got there in St. Louis, I gathered my whole team, my multi-year team, as well as the middle school officer team to come and meet down and to, really go over some things. I would say, plain housekeeping rules. We're in a different area, we're in a different space. Be mindful, of your surroundings, the things you do, you say, the way you walk, the way you talk, everything like that. And so that was kind of like my empathetic way of telling them, hey, don't mess this up. I don't need no attention, no negative attention on me, running for national office. I do not need my state to have a bad name, right? So that was kind of like my empathetic way of saying that. Well, as the conference went on, we had a couple different members of our team who were officers and some who weren't officers who became to start to have a pattern, of behavior. So always getting into something. And so I called another meeting for all of JAG Louisiana. And um, I was still empathetic, and still saying, hey guys, you can't do that, this, and the third. Let them go the second time. And eventually I got very frustrated because I can't really concentrate on what I want trying to do and what I'm trying to accomplish if my whole team is, in chaos right now because, they are going bonkers, right? So the third time I called my entire team, and Ashley, who's on this call, my president-elect, stood in agreement with me and saying that Austin, you just have to be real with them. You just have to be blunt and you just have to come out and say it. Enough is enough. And sometimes when you start to see that pattern in behavior, you kind of have to just, instead of letting them drive, you kind of have to yank that steering wheel sometimes, to get them on the right track. And that's kind of like what I did. And that's kind of like what I did. And I was like, hey guys, listen up, this is not going to work. I'm trying to do something that's going to not only better me, but that's going to better the state and JAG as we know it. And I need you guys' support. This is not going to be easy. I'm very disappointed in you guys' actions and the chatter that I'm hearing from other states, and it did not sound good. I said that is not what JAG Louisiana is about. That's not what JAG is about. And we're here on a leadership conference. We're here as leaders. We're here as people of integrity. And so you guys need to act accordingly. And everybody was like, I didn't know he's talked like that, or I didn't know he did something like that. And so that was kind of like my first time actually having to reconstruct the team, and letting them know this is what it is and this is what it's not. And they took that and they did exactly what I told them to do. I told them, you guys are a reflection of me. So everything that you guys say, you do, or the way that you act, everybody's going to say, oh, the person from JAG Louisiana is actually running for a national office. And so letting them know that your behavior is a reflection of me and what we're trying to accomplish. And so they kind of took that to heart. But hey, at the end, it was all worth it because they started telling people about me, bringing people to me, and different things like that. So I kind of had my whole team's help at the end. So that was very, very beautiful to see that not only that I helped them, but I also helped myself in that moment, realizing that it was a time and a place for me not to be as empathetic as I was before. So thank you so very much, Shelby, for your question. I hope that answered it.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. And sometimes, in a sense that, empathy is great, it does need to be used. But in other senses where there's non empathy, I feel as though maybe it's more of tough love. And that some people, they just really need to hear the tough part of that love. And then it all works out in the end, like your story. So, absolutely. Yeah, great story. Thank you, Austin. And thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. We are reaching the official end time of our meeting, but we are willing to stay behind a couple minutes longer if anyone would like to stay as well and ask any questions. I know there's some questions on the chat. We do want to say real quick before people start leaving, just a quick reminder: the JAGCA officer application is now open. We will be having a live meeting in February, where we will kind of be going through the head brush module where all the information on February 13th, where all the information is regarding the officer application and the process, and we will answer any questions that you have. So if you would like to join that, stay tuned for any other announcements. We will be sending out a link for that. And we also want to say that, or remind you that, the NCDC registration opens February 3rd. So those are the reminders that we have for all of you. Again, we will be staying a couple minutes back. So if you want to hang out and just kind of ask those questions or continue to ask those questions, you are more than welcome to. Thank you so much for everyone that was able to join today, for staying, for even joining for a couple of minutes. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We hope that you found this helpful and useful. If you have any other questions, don't feel free to reach out to any of us. We are always available. And again, we hope to see you soon. Hope to see you guys at that live event for the information meeting. And back to the questions now. Thank you.
All right, Savannah did have a question. Savannah Edgar from Alabama. She said, was there any wake-up call moment where you realized you needed to practice empathy and you weren't? Actually, I feel like I can answer this question. My answer is very broad, but I would say in high school, probably freshman and sophomore year, that's when group projects started becoming a big thing. And let's just say the peers that I were working with often had excuses for why they weren't doing their portion of the group project or why they weren't why they didn't have it done on time. And at first, I would say my reaction wasn't very empathetic. And at that time, I don't think I was even very aware of what empathy was or how to effectively show empathy towards my peers. Because, some of them were just coming up for excuses just because they can, but some genuinely weren't able to do their part of that group project. And at the time, I wasn't very understanding of that situation. But as I grew into my high school years and actually started to get more involved in leadership activities like JAG, where, being in a group is everything, that's where I started to develop that skill, empathy, and how vital it is in a group setting. Because everyone, you know, we all have situations that happen in life. Some of them we can't control, some of them we can, but we just really have to be understanding of what others have going on. And working in those leadership groups really helped me understand that I have to show a little more empathy to people. I don't have to continuously show it to them, but I should give them a chance before I go straight into my non-empathetic reaction and tell them, cut it out, you gotta lock in. So that's my example.
And real quick, the date for that informational live meeting is February 12th, not the 13th. Just wanted to thank you.
A good question, Savannah.
Yeah, Savannah, I'm the eldest of four boys, so being empathetic was very, very hard for me to do growing up. And I was not empathetic at all. I am a person, and I've always been taught this, going through middle school and high school. Austin, you're just so blunt. And I was like that for a long time. Even I still kind of struggle with that, even as a national officer, but I have my team to help me pull it together and say, hey, Austin, that wasn't really nice. Can we try a different way of saying that, different things like that? Because sometimes I would just go in, just looking straight and not looking at the bigger picture and really, I would say, caring about other people's feelings in the moment. And so I would say that it was a long time before I even learned what empathy was. So this lesson helped me just as much as it's helping you guys tonight.
I want to go ahead and answer Mia's question. Her question is, do you have any advice for leaders in the chapter who have issues with connecting to their specialist and receiving information? I'd say it is pretty tough, being that the adult in the situation is not providing you the information that you need. But just kind of, communicating that and actively reminding them. And I know it's really tough. You might feel like you're annoying them, but advocate for yourself. Tell them, hey, you're my specialist. I really want to know more about what's going on within the JAG Career Association. Can you please help me out with that? Or, if they can refer you over to somebody else who can give you that information, it's also pretty helpful. But I think the biggest thing here is just advocating for yourself and letting them know your expectations from what you expect from them as your JAG specialist.
Thank you, Alondra. I do want to go back real quick to Savannah's answer, just because I think it's one of those moments where you have to self-reflect a little bit. There were definitely times, and still even today sometimes, where like I'll be talking to somebody, helping them, but even though I'm helping them, I'm still not being empathetic. Can you guys hear that? Please ignore that if you can. But even though I'm helping them, I feel like I'm still not being empathetic, or as empathetic as I know I can be. Um, and so it's one of those moments where I kind of have to ask myself, like, if I was running into myself, would I think that I'm a nice person? Like, would I think that I'm being helpful, genuinely wanting to help somebody out? Or like, am I just doing it because I feel like I have to? So because a lot of the times, well, not a lot of times, but there's definitely those times where I've realized that I'm like, oh my god, I'm not being nice at all, and like if anything, I'm scaring this person even more, so I have to like change my tone or my attitude. So it's always about asking yourselves, like, if I would run into myself right now, what would I think?
I just wanted to come on here and answer Savannah's question because I really feel like it touched a part that nobody really talks about when you're not showing empathy for yourself. It's been plenty of times where I've been very hard on myself when I feel like going to this competition, what could I perfect better? Like I just feel like I didn't do enough. But at the same time, I have to show myself empathy because being a leader is not easy. Sometimes you have to struggle just to get to that finish line. So I just feel like showing empathy for yourself is something a lot of people need to work on, especially me.
Thank you so much for responding to that question. I feel like all of us overlook that, and that is so important. So thank you for reminding us. And feel free to come off mute and answer those questions. Thank you so much for doing them, Mariah.
Yeah, don't be scared to ask any questions. No such thing as a dumb question.
I have a question.
Yes, Ashley.
So seeing that, how the world is today, I guess this question is kind of like a reflection question, on how the world is today. So like if you could make the world a more empathetic place, what specific challenges or issues would you address first and why?
Mm, That's an interesting reflection question. I'm gonna have to think hard on that one again.
I feel like, okay, I don't even know if this is gonna make sense, but I feel like um maybe so sometimes we project, right? And sometimes it's not even that we don't like a person or a group of people. It may be more so that we see ourselves in them, but we're so insecure about those attributes that we maybe aren't nice to them. So I would say, like, a challenge that we need to face, it's working within ourselves and kind of opening the doors to seeing those insecurities that I see myself in others and asking myself, why is it so much that I am like this way towards this person or towards this group of people? What do I see in them that I'm seeing in myself and that I don't like about myself, and that is why I'm being or treating them this way. Does that make sense? So I don't know. That was like the first thing that came to my mind when you said that. Thank you for asking that question. It's a really good question, Ashley.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you for your answer, Frida.
Ashley, I'm sorry. Could you repeat your question one more time?
Yes. So seeing how the world is today, if
Mhm.
you could make the world a more empathetic place, like what challenges or issues would you address first?
Okay. Um, for me, I would say unity. I feel like right now our country, well, our world in general, we're not very united. We're not really togetherness isn't as um, being projected as much as it should be. And I feel like in order to be able to understand empathy, it requires various perspectives. It really involves collaborating with others and being able to, have same different perspectives with others and working with them. So I feel like unity is like the biggest challenge that needs to be addressed first before, we focus on trying to become a more empathetic society or community. I hope that response made sense, but
Thank you.
mhm.
To respond to your question, I don't know if this gonna make sense, but y'all bear with me. But I feel like again, when you give somebody like she said, she saw so many insecurities in people that she's seen in herself. I just feel like when you give advice to a person that's going through the same thing that you're going through, why not use your own advice to help better yourself? That's also a way I feel like we can, face those challenges, because if I'm telling you advice that you use, why can't I give my own self that advice and encourage myself to do what I'm encouraging you to do?
To answer your question, actually, which is a really, really beautiful question. Like Alante said, unity is a key factor and how we can definitely change this society, this ever-changing society, to a more empathetic society. And along unity, I would say even to have unity, just plain out simple love and kindness. So what happened to just being nice to one another, opening the door, for people, and different things like that, that we can definitely build that bridge of kindness and love, loving people no matter what background you have, no matter what your what's your cultural beliefs, different things like that. What happened to just plain old love and kindness? And so that is something that we can start addressing the issues of um, the loss and the lack of empathy in this society. So start with yourself. I would say start being more kind. Not to say that no one is kind or nice or not showing love to anyone, but just start practicing that. When we start practicing that, that's one step closer to how we can make this society a better place.
I think you asked a very impactful question, Ashley. Like you said, it's all about reflecting, and I think right now, with how things are, I think it's very easy to fall into the hating train, especially with everything that's going on. Maybe you don't agree, and that causes you to say something that otherwise is not very tasteful. So I think it's very important right now more than ever to think before you speak and think before you do. Thank you for your question, Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank
To
you so much
just,
for asking that. Oh,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
To just add on to what Austin said, showing plain old just love, just compassion. At McAdory, you know, as I'm in the JAG program there, Miss Champion, she actually has a vision board for us that we do every day. We come in, we pick a person in the class, we tell them good morning, and we ask them how their day was, ask them about the days that, hey, do you need something? Is there something, we could do? Sit, talk, and get to know each other. Just showing them that, just because you come to school doesn't mean nobody is going to ask you about your day. So showing them that somebody actually really cares will brighten up somebody's day. So like that could change or be an impact too. Just say something simple, like, hey, good morning, or oh, your shirt looks nice, or just saying something that will brighten up a person's day, because you never know what you might say, what impact it might have on that person's day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for adding that. We do have one more question, and that will be the last question that we'll take for tonight. Arad de la Rosa is asking, what do you struggle with the most as a leader? Officers, do you want to answer that first?
I can answer this. I can go first. So Austin did point out one of our little notes that we had in the back of one of those pictures, which is each idea 5 seconds. I tend to think that I have the greatest ideas ever and I want us to ponder on them forever. And I think that's something that I really need to work on because sometimes I'm like, hey guys, remember that idea I had like, a minute ago? What do you guys think about it? And it's just like, sometimes it's okay that your idea isn't chosen. And I think that's something that this team has helped me overcome for sure, letting me know that maybe not every idea is the best and that's okay and there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah.
For me, I'm also going to take something that was on our little sticky notes from our training. Something that I had actually brought to the training is a saying called step up, step down, the phrase that Austin was talking about earlier. And it's something I actually struggle with quite a bit. Sometimes, you know, when I do step up, I can be up for a little too much, taking the stage and not really giving other people that room to have some of that attention as well. And sometimes when I step down, I stay down for too long when someone needs to step up. So that's something I have been struggling with quite a bit lately, but it's something that I'm slowly starting to get better at, just knowing when's the right time to, step up and, have this the spotlight for a little bit, and also knowing when's the right time to step down to give others a spotlight as well.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Or Austin, do you want to go?
I'm so sorry. My mic wasn't unmuting fast enough. Um, I would say something that I struggle with the most as a leader, and a lot of people do not know this about me, but I really struggle with my confidence. My confidence has really, really been a barrier for me. I'm very insecure, I would say, about a lot of things, and really questioning myself. Am I good enough? And I do that to myself a lot. And I have my team there to reassure me that, this is your time, this is your moment, you're meant for this, you were built for this is your destiny. And so, sometimes as a leader, we think we're supposed to have it all together. So, but in reality, we don't. And leaders, a good leader is a forever learner. So if you're a leader that just doesn't think that you can learn anything new or that you're not teachable, then you're not a good leader. I would say that automatically, but I would say also too, you have to always remain humble, always have humility, always remain teachable because you're going to have people, in your team, in your career associations that are going to have great ideas, like Alondra said, great ideas, and that you need to listen to and really consider. Because, you know, I don't always have all the answers. Frida doesn't have all the answers. Alante or Alondra doesn't have all the answers. But what we can do is we can rely on each other to come up with a better solution. And Mariah, to go on what you said, my specialist also did something similar to what your specialist does, but we called them sunshines. And we would all get a sticky note and we would put them in each other's JAG mailboxes. Just a random note from an anonymous and just tell anybody that, you're beautiful today. Your smile makes me smile. Different things like that. And, with technology and everything, I encourage everybody to, text some people, some random people, some sunshines, to brighten their day.
That is so cute and uplifting. Um, I mean, everything was kind of covered, to be honest. I feel that I struggle with, a couple areas as well. Um, but I would say sometimes just like staying quiet, it's kind of sometimes other teammate, I'm sorry, other team members may have the same ideas as you or may communicate what you were trying to communicate but better, and you don't need to say, oh, that's what I was thinking. Like, oh, I was gonna, that was my idea too. Because then, you kind of take a little bit of credit from their idea. And as a leader, it's important to allow your team members are so real. It's important to allow your team members to be on the spotlight. There will be future ideas that'll be your own, and they'll be just as great. Not everything that you know come up with, like, has to be, your name doesn't have to be on every good idea, because there's going to be time and future opportunities for you to create something. And so, you have to allow others to be part of that spotlight. And another thing that I also feel like I have learned this year is to be vulnerable with each other. I feel like for at the beginning of, okay, I'm not even gonna finish that, but I feel like at some points, I wouldn't trust myself as a leader, and I would just kind of be like, well, like, I don't know if I'm good for this. Well, like, maybe I shouldn't say this. Well, but then there are other times where um I probably wasn't so accepting of others' situation, or um their ideas. And so it's really like a balance. Sometimes you're working more on other areas than you were like a year ago. And so, but it's really what Austin said. You're always learning. You're always being taught something new. And when you feel that you're confident in a certain area, then you go on to a next area you don't feel so confident in. But I feel very grateful and blessed to have the team members that I do, because I know that I wouldn't be growing as a leader if I didn't have them. So thank you guys, Alondra, Alante, and Austin. So we are now going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you so much for joining tonight. Thank you so much for participating. You are what makes the live sessions a success. So please keep showing up. We hope to see you soon. Um, Leave any feedback. Reach out to us if you have any questions. Again, thank you so much for joining. I don't know if you can hear that, but if you can, don't.
Thank you so much for having me. I really took a